Today I'm going to talk about my trellis frame. It is a DIY high CFM kit that also doubles as a trellis low stress frame kit for my tent. This one is my 3x3 tent, but I'm going to start fresh in the 2.5 by 2.5 and show you exactly how I made it. So I figured I'd build one for the new 2x5 by 2x5 that I got, since my old one doesn't fit in here. Since my old tent was a 2x2, it was a little bit smaller. A couple things that you're going to need. One, some way of cutting PVC cutters, tape measure, permanent marker, at least 4 90-degree elbow corners. Your thickness of PVC will vary on whatever you want to go with. I'm using 3/4, and then right now they are in 3-foot sections. I need to cut them down to fit. Here's how to do so. First thing we're going to do is measure exactly how tall this tent is. How wide, not how tall. So we're sitting at 26 inches from pole to pole. Now, remember, when we're doing this, we're also going to have an additional elbow piece attached to it. So the piece we're cutting is not going to be exactly 26 inches. When we're measuring, we want to go more or less from the center of this pole rather than the edges. We don't want to be flush right up against like how we are right now, because then we're going to be having our pole come out right here instead of being right here where we're measuring. From this interior pole to the next interior pole to my left would be the same measurement of what we're measuring now, as compared to half to half. 26 and a half, okay? So once I measure, I then cut a single piece of PVC and I see if it fits between my poles. Once I'm sure that it fits, I then apply the two 90-degree elbow corners onto that exact same piece, and the goal is to then fitment so that the 90-degree elbow points touch both poles. No shimmying back and forth. Notice how it no longer fits between the two poles and is actually on the outside of the corners. That is very important. You do not want it to fit snug between the corners. Now that we have one measured piece that we know for sure fits, we are going to deconstruct it and use it to mark the other 3 poles. Here I mark it with an X to keep me from getting confused. I will now use the already measured and cut piece and match it up with a piece that needs to be cut. I will mark on the tube that needs to be cut as well with on my tape measure, so that I have 2 spots that I can guarantee is the correct length for when I need to cut. Measure twice, cut once. My hand is in the way, but this is where I am marking the tube that needs to be cut based off the length of the one that I already cut. Now that I've got one mark, I will use the tape measure to double check and ensure that it isn't the correct measurement. Once I'm happy with my markings and measurements, it's time to cut. And just like that, I now have 2 identical pieces. Now this is the part where the X comes into play with my original measurement, just to be sure that everything is being based off of one pole. I can ensure a little bit more consistency from cut to cut if I use the same pole to measure every single cut I use. It's basically just going to be repeating this process until I have 4 identical poles. Once again, I'm using my original cut pole to measure on a piece that needs to be cut. I mark it, and then I double check with my tape measure. Measure twice, cut once. And with some quick work, now we have 4 identical poles ready to put together. Next step would be find a way to hang it from the top of your tent. I am using carabiner hooks and ratchet ropes. I have one on the left side, one on the right side, and then one all the way in the far back. I don't have one in the front because that would just be blocking my view, basically. And then we're going to basically just hang it up. We're going to put all 4 corner elbow pieces on there so that you have a frame. Once you've cut everything, they're all the same size, all 4 corners. Basically, you're just going to do a test fit. See if it fits. And just like that, we've got the frame built. So now you have either a option to keep it just as it is. I have my ducting in here. I'm not really doing a whole lot. It's okay to flatten it a little bit, not a big deal, but it fits. They don't have to be a perfect snug fit. But just take a look at where all 4 of the corners are touching. And I will throw up my measurements up on the screen. Again, this is a 2x2 from Mars Hydro. I think it's a 2.5 by 2.5 if I'm correct. But now we're going to take it down and drill holes in it. So when it comes to drilling holes, just grab a tape measure, marker, and basically decide if you want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 inches apart. And then mark them with your pen on the bar. Avoid marking the corners, don't count, don't measure those. Use the same measurement and spacing from one bar all the way around for every other bar. This time around I chose 2 inches apart, so they will be 2-inch squares when it's all said and strung. Each bar has 2-inch dots all the way around. Again, I did not count or include the corner pieces. At the local Home Depot, this is exactly what we're looking for right here. Mildew and rot resistant poly blend masonry line, contractor string. Depends on what color you want. They even have it on a nice little handy thing, but one little spool, the small one, will make multiple frames as compared to a bigger spool. Yellow, pink, red, or orange. And this is also where I get my carabiner hooks for my tent. You just gotta make sure that they're big enough so that they fit around your poles. The gold and the red ones fit, I know for sure. The green and purple do not. What we will then do is feed our string. I have a plant stake that I cut a sliver off of and then cut a sliver into, tied a knot around it so that it's good and strong. And what I do is simply just feed this, right through the hole. A little hard to do when I'm one-handed here. Simply going to feed. I don't start in the middle. I start one end and I go down, over, up, over, down, over, up, over, and I continue that process until I have one side all the way strung, and then I tie it off to the pole, and then I will use a second piece of string and do it to the other side. Now when I'm doing the other side, I will go over under of each string that was going down before. You do not have to do that. It is optional. So I've got one side strung up, over, down, over, down, over, down, over, down, over, down. One end that I finished on, I then wrapped it around, tied it. It's in a knot. That's not going anywhere. I then am going to pull it as tight as I can, cut it from the main spool, and then do the same thing and tie it off on that end. And just like that, it is tied off on both ends. Oop, I missed. And I can basically play guitar. Get it as tight as you can. Then we're gonna flip it and do the exact same thing. Right, so I've got it strung up, tied off, ready to go. Get it as tight as I can get it, good and pulled. And let's just place it in the tent, and that's it. Trellis net is built. And just like that, your trellis net is built. Your high CFM DIY trellis net is ready to go. You can then hang and adjust it at whatever height you need be. The plants will push up against the string a little bit, but other than that, it will stay exactly where you put it. The plants will not push it up. It's got enough weight to stay put. That's really everything that there is about it. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, anything on how I built this, shoot out a question my way, drop a comment down below, leave me a DM, shoot me a message over here at Growing with Dragon over on Instagram as well. If you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your time. I know not everyone can sit down and just watch a video when they have time to it, so thank you. As for that, take care guys, happy gardening, keep crushing it.